Alright, so I'm not here today, but I had another book adoption committee meeting today, so I'm going to do some brief notes with you guys, and then you have an assignment in your Springboard book to also complete. So everybody should have hopefully already got this paper from the sub. If not, pause this video, get this passed out, and then go ahead and hit play again so that you can follow along with me. I will also post this video on Edsby in case you miss anything. So if I go too fast, you can go back on and replay it. Alright, we're starting to talk about congruent triangles. Now, we went over some basic ideas of congruent triangles and how when we have congruent triangles, all the corresponding parts are congruent. However, there are also there are four shortcuts that we need to know that will work with our congruent triangles. So on here, instead of being able to tell that all the angles and sides are congruent before saying that the triangle is congruent, again, there are shortcuts. On this top part, we're not quite talking about the shortcuts yet. We're going over a little bit of vocab to make sure that we understand what these things are so that when we get into the shortcuts, you know how to correctly label the triangles. So on here, the top part, all triangles have 6 parts, 3 sides, 3 angles. Here's a triangle. If we labeled every single one of the sides with an S, and then every single one of the angles with an A, again, now it looks similar to the triangle that was down here below it, right? The idea here is that when we talk about sides and angles, there are things that are called included angles and included sides. Well, an included angle is an angle between two sides. So, well, you might look at this and be like, well, there's an angle in between all of these sides. And that's true. But if we look at specific combinations, so if I was talking about these 3 pieces here, this A would be included between these 2 sides, whereas these 2 angles are non-included with these 2 sides. So included angle, the angle between 2 sides. Now, if I was talking about an included side, so let me highlight these 3 over here. This side is between these 2 angles. Therefore, since this side is between these 2 angles, this side is included by those 2 angles. So an included side, the side between 2 angles. Now, it is true that in a triangle, any side can be included, any angle can be included. But with the diagrams that we're going to be given, we will not have all 6 pieces given to us. So we will only have 3 pieces given to us. And by looking at those 3 pieces, we're going to have to be able to say whether or not the side or the angle is included. So down here on the next part, again, this one's labeled very similar to what I just did on the previous problem. All right, so we have all 6 parts. Again, this is to say I did not do the first part really 100% correct because I labeled the angles on the outside, and if we were given an angle measure, it would be on the inside. If we were labeling a vertex, then it'd be on the outside like I did. But these down here are in the correct positions for if we were to label the measurements of the triangle. Whenever you label the measurements of a triangle, the measurements for the sides will go on the outside, whereas the measurements for the angles would go on the inside. And that's why they're labeled in these positions for this triangle. Now, on this next part, in order for 2 triangles to be congruent, you need to have 3 pairs of congruent parts. So make the possible combinations of 6 pairs of triangles using only 3 letters. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can think of them, and go ahead and then have somebody restart this in a minute. Okay, so now that you've tried to do it on your own, let's go ahead and do this together. We have side, side, side. So if you could have all 3 sides, you could also have all 3 angles. So angle, angle, angle. You see we have ASA, which if we can have angle, side, angle, we should be able to have side, angle, side. The other two might have been a little more tricky, but things that would have worked here is SSA, which, yes, you could have that backwards and it would spell a bad word, but those would be the same thing, so we're always going to use it as SSA.